How's it going, guys? JP here, back at you once again with another edition of 7 Days of Horror. This time we are talking about Stephen King horror adaptations, so Stephen King films slash miniseries, and for day number 3 we're actually going to be talking about the third and final miniseries in this edition of Stephen King's 7 Days of Horror. And we're talking about a gigantic epic miniseries, and we are talking about The Stand from the year 1994 with the tagline of "The end of the world is just the beginning." Now, I'd never seen The Stand. This is the first time watching it. I did watch it in that episodic format where I watched, one episode a day for 4 days. It's broke up into 4 parts. It's over 6 hours long, just slightly over 6 hours long. Each part is, roughly an hour and a half long, so you're gonna really be doing a marathon if you try to watch this all at once. And first thing, before I get into anything, I do think that this one, like Bag of Bones and like Salem's Lot, really lends itself to the miniseries format. I guess, who would have thought miniseries work in that format? So yeah, I really recommend watching this in that format, the miniseries, one part of it each day instead of, or even once a week for 4 weeks, instead of doing the marathon thing. I think these things really are made that way. Well, obviously they're made that way on purpose, but I think they really are most effective when you watch them that way. So with that, aside, let's actually get into the film. So, The Stand. It's a big, long, epic journey where you're mainly following a lot of characters and learning about these characters as they are stuck in a shitty situation. So, part 1 is called The Plague. Now, this one opens up with some sort of virus being let loose, and a man tries to escape a military facility, science research base, something, with his wife and child. We find out that he didn't make it. He was infected with what they're calling the super flu. It's basically flu-like symptoms, flu-like everything, but it is lethal, 100% I think, or nearly that. And it also has a 99% contagious rate, or whatever you would call that. So he basically is the carrier, and it just starts spreading everywhere. Meanwhile, we're skipping all across the country to different states, different cities and different states, and meeting characters as this flu thing is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and everybody's kind of freaking out. And at first I was thinking in the film, like, alright, you're doing this standard, virus thing, but I didn't expect for the whole world to be wiped out as fast as it was, because by I think episode 2, pretty much the whole world's dead except for a couple hundred people that we see, at least. This virus just kills everybody except for, like I said, a couple hundred people, but I don't think they're immune to it. I think there's a line dropped where it says that the tests show that there's no immunity to it. You're just not, it's just not, you're not getting it for some reason. So I think it's, mentioning or kind of hinting at a higher power, saving them from this flu, this super flu, this deadly disease. So it definitely is strong, overtones of religious God type stuff in this film, which I kind of wasn't expecting. I think it kind of worked really well for what it was doing. So as this is happening, we're meeting all these characters, and that's kind of what the first 2 parts are. The part 2 is called The Dreams, and this is where, a lot of the characters that we were introduced to, this is where we really start following them, and character development is building. We have a guy named Stu, who is kind of our, lead character, at least, one of the stronger leads. He's the tough, like, wouldn't say alpha male, but the leader type of guy. He has that leader quality to him. We're introduced to a deaf mute who is one of my favorite characters. I thought he really pulled off that character really well, and you know, kind of a sympathetic character, but not so much to where he's just there for you to feel bad for. He doesn't make it seem like you should feel bad for him, but overall, you know, you kind of just do, because that must suck to be deaf and mute. You know, you feel bad, but it doesn't put a magnifying glass over the sympathetic character. It's just, he is what he is. He meets another character who is, you know, mildly retarded, and this is actually my favorite character. He has a lot of great lines, and he was really familiar to me. I found out that he was actually the voice of Patrick on SpongeBob SquarePants, so that, after I found that out, it really bugged me, and I wish I wouldn't have looked it up. Then we're introduced to a guy named Larry, who's kind of, at first you kind of get that he's that like sleazy musician, but he turns out to be much more than that. We're introduced to Nadine, and just a bunch of characters, a bunch. And they start having these dreams. Some of them dream of a old black woman in a cornfield somewhere in Nebraska, and she's she's basically, you know, the good. And then they have dreams of this dark guy who's, you know, wanders the desert and can transform into a crow and stuff, you know, evil. So they're all dreaming of these people, and they all find out that they're having the same dreams, so they start moving to find this old woman in the cornfield. Then we move to part 3, the betrayal, which pretty much everybody has gathered to this one place now in the cornfield. You know, and then they move on, and they're picking up people, and they're basically starting this, you know, rebuilding civilization, establishing a government and things like that. And they're all survivors. They're all somehow, you know, following God. And I don't want to give too much more away, except for the same thing that's happening to these people is also happening across this country in Las Vegas with the bad people. All the people that are, you know, terrible people are doing the same thing. So it's kind of this good-evil thing, and The Stand is not just a title, it actually, you know, has a meaning. And basically you expect for some sort of, you know, in the part 4, The Stand, you expect for some kind of big battle, good versus evil. You never really get that. I will say that the villain character, and this review is probably going to go on a little while because, you know, it's a lot to get through. The villain character I found to be really effective. I thought he really worked as a villain. He had his funny moments, but he was also kind of you know, menacing and intimidating at times. There's a good, the good guys, there's a good like camaraderie between all these people that really shines through and really believable. The bad guys, there's one guy, I can't remember his name, but he's really good at playing like a sleazeball type guy. He was in The Night Flyer and a couple other things. He was in a Tales from the Crypt episode, but I really like him as like kind of the main guy under the devil type guy. So yeah, what else? Made in 1994 has that 90s TV movie feel to it in a lot of scenes, but I think it, you know, I think it kind of hurts it a bit sometimes. To me it feels like that even though this was a 4-part thing, there was so many characters and so much to get to that I think a lot of things were just glossed over, and it really is noticeable, whether it's between characters or you know, things that happen to characters that we're just kind of introduced to a new character and it's like, well, who the hell was that? I don't remember his story. But it expects you to, it's not that it just introduces you, it kind of expects you to know, or it just feels like you should already know, but we don't. So I think that's a problem. I think that it's a bit tame. I know it's 1994 TV miniseries, but I really felt like there could have been some darker stuff, especially dealing with some of the, subjects and some of the content that was happening in the show. There are some pretty, dark moments and stuff, but I was hoping for a little bit more. By the end of it, I almost felt like they spent too much time on the character development, but at the same time, I was just saying how it feels like they didn't develop enough characters. So it almost comes down to it was a 4-part thing, but maybe it should have been a little bit longer, and there should have been more, action, time for action and character development. And by action, I don't mean like actual like blowing up shit action. I just mean like stuff happening. There's a lot of names in this too. Molly Ringwald from 16 Candles, Breakfast Club fame. There's a lot of familiar faces. You'll notice people. I believe Dennis Hopper's actually in this, which I found interesting. I don't even know what else to say about The Stand. It's a long movie. It's definitely, you want to watch it in that episodic format, and there's probably a lot of things left out from the book, which is always the case when you're dealing with book to movie adaptation. I'm just talking about the movie. I don't read a lot. I don't know about the book. I'm sure it's better. It always is. So there's really no need to point that out. Just saying. The Stand. I really did enjoy it, but I did see there was some flaws. I did really like the post-apocalyptic feel of it. There's some scenes where characters are walking through towns, and there's a scene where the deaf mute guy and the mildly retarded guy, which I thought was such a great team up. They meet this girl, and that's one of my favorite scenes in the film, because I thought the girl played the part really well. It was a pretty cool scene. There's a scene with I'm not going to give away too much more. I mean I love the scenes where people are walking through towns and stuff, and there's just dead bodies everywhere and in the cars and stuff. Some of them don't look the greatest, but it's about the atmosphere. It brings that dingy, nasty, dead bodies laying all over the world type feel to it. So yeah. I could probably talk about this a bit more, but I'm gonna wrap this one up. I did enjoy it. I was expecting more, though. I got to be honest. I was expecting a little bit more from it. I've heard so many good things and stuff, and you invest 6 hours of your time in it. It almost feels like the end, it just kind of rushed and fit everything together. And I was kind of expecting a more impactful ending, and I didn't get that at all. So that bummed me out a little bit. When characters die, it's actually it actually has an effect. It's not just, characters dying. You get to know these characters, and some of them are developed really well, and their deaths, affect you. Others are just not developed enough, and their deaths don't affect you as much. So yeah, I really got to wrap this up now. The Stand, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Check it out. Just watch it in that episodic format, Maybe, I would say watch it one episode a week for 4 weeks. I think that's the perfect way to check this out. See you guys tomorrow with another Stephen King review, and peace out, guys.